Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our council meeting, Tuesday, December 14th. The CAO has not joined us online yet, but I'm certain he will be doing so shortly. Our recording clerk, I trust, has all of our broadcast systems in place for our viewing public. And we welcome all of our viewers on our YouTube channel who are either watching live or might do so in the future after tonight's meeting. So without further delay, I would take a mover and a seconder to open tonight's meeting. Moved by Councillor Foisey, seconded by Councillor Corbett, that this meeting be opened at 7:01 p.m. All in favor? Carried. Adoption of the minutes. I wanted to make a note of a point prior to moving to the minutes for the benefit of the councillors, but more so for our viewing public and those who may follow these types of things. FNOM, which is the Federation of Northern Ontario Municipalities, had sent around a monthly communication piece. And I just wanted to acknowledge for council the passing of Austin Hunt, who many of us had met at various conferences and other things. And he was quite a colorful character to talk to. He was a long-term mayor of Billings Township, which is on Manitoulin Island, but he was regularly recognized by AMO and FNOM prior to his retirement last term for over 50 years of municipal service as an elected official. So I was saddened to see that Austin had passed, but certainly his legacy is carrying forward in all the service that he did in his community. The adoption of our previous minutes brought to my attention when I reviewed them a mistake that I guess I made in the last meeting in that I was hoping it was a mistake in the minutes, and it's a mistake by me instead, in that it reflects on item 16, I believe it is, that the Planning Advisory Committee had in fact recommended the motion as it's described there, where in fact that was a compromise situation that council chose to, which is our right to do so, and was encouraged, if necessary, by the Planning Advisory Committee to amend their motion that they had recommended from the committee. So I just wanted to acknowledge tonight the minutes are completely accurate, but if members of the Planning Advisory Committee draw attention to that, the actual motion and recommendation that came from Planning Advisory was adjusted by council, and the preamble line in it says, as recommended by the Planning Advisory Committee. It was in fact amended by council after the Planning Advisory Committee had made their recommendation and differs from their actual recommendation. So I just wanted council to be aware of that prior to adopting the minutes. So on that basis, I would take a mover and a seconder for those minutes. Moved by Councillor Vinecourt, seconded by Councillor Corbett, that the minutes of the regular meeting held November 9th, 2021 be adopted as circulated. Any questions at all? All in favor? Carried. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? Yes, Councillor Lagasse.
Good evening, Council. I do have an interest, even though I wasn't at the previous meeting of December 14th, I believe. I will declare an interest in the item that you just described with the severance application B20-2021, as Council has dealt with that. So that's my disclosure for tonight.
Okay, thank you. There's no presentations and delegations that I'm aware of. Minutes and reports of municipal committees and boards. Planning Advisory, December 7th.
Yes, we did have a meeting December 7th. We have a recommendation that we brought to council for one of our applications. And also there's a letter further on down in our agenda. I believe it's under information under number 9.8. And I guess we'll deal with that one when we get to that part.
Okay. Fire department.
Yeah, we had a meeting November 30th. We discussed it. We talked a few things about recruitment, ongoing efforts to keep our roster around 18. It's at 18. We'd like to have it around 25. Still trying to hire a new chair for the CM emergency committee. I think we've got a couple options going out right now. Trying to find a couple of, see if anybody wants to step up to the plate on that. Ice water gear and training. We approved the purchase of the gear, and it's part of the budget. And we talked about capital needs and our what we're going to need in the future for the next 3-4 years in the department for what our priorities are and the wish list, I guess. And also the risk of the fire department risk assessment also. I would like to see if Councillor Corbett wants to add anything to that.
No, thank you. That was great.
And we did have a tour the next night. We did go meet the department, and they were having training going on, and it was pretty interesting. And Jason, if you'd like to comment of your first tour there.
Yeah, it was actually very impressive. I can see some of the past investments council has made in some of the equipment there, and it's pretty great to see some of the newer equipment and be proud of that, mixed in with some of our aging equipment that I think will be issues for future council to consider as we replenish our and restock our department. But the tour is great. The people were very welcoming. It's great to see the talent in there, and they were all working really hard, learning how to cut open roofs and to create false chimneys in case of a fire. It was actually great to see all that work happening. I wish my chainsaw started as well as that one did. It did.
All right,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thanks.
Recreation and fitness.
We didn't have a meeting since our last one, so we're still waiting, trying to get something going, Andre. If we could.
Okay.
Right, thanks.
Library.
Yes, we talked about the new hours of operation starting January 4th, Mondays from 10 to 4, Tuesday 4 to 7, Wednesdays 10 to 7, Thursday 4 to 7, and Saturdays 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Talked about the holiday schedule and the COVID protocol to be kept in place.
Okay. Thank you. General government. I guess we could call yesterday's finance committee meeting a general government meeting, in that all members of council, or no, we were one member short yesterday, but members of council discussed with our financial consultant advisor, Mr. Brian Rogers, formerly CAO of the City of North Bay, our long-term debt policies that we have, and also our current status related to our reserve funds, and how some of the projects that we have on our horizon, one of them being Castle Home and the other one being our development road construction project, how both of those could impact us as far as our standing related to reserve funds and our debt capacity limits and things in that order. There was an outcome of the meeting that the CAO be directed to implement adjustments to the policies related to beginning to set aside incremental smaller amounts of funding in the neighborhood of 25,000 annually for the pending Castle Home expenditures, so that when debt repayment of those projects starts to come forward, in the fiscal years, that there will be some reserve on hand to offset that. Is there any member of the General Government Committee and Council that wishes to elaborate on that anymore at this point? No, okay. Police Services has not had a meeting. Emergency Management, as was alluded to by Councillor Viancourt, our Community Emergency Management Coordinator position is vacant. So for any of our viewers right now who may know or may themselves hold skills related to emergency management, such as a firefighter or police service or other such military type experience, there certainly is a vacancy in our municipality for a part-time position. It's a paid part-time position of the municipality to coordinate primarily the documentation, the plans, and the keeping the communication chain open of our emergency plan in conjunction with Emergency Measures Ontario, who provide great assistance and perhaps even some training to that individual to get them up to speed on serving as a community emergency management coordinator. So I throw that out there to the public. It's a posted position, but applications are certainly welcome, or expressions of interest, or if anybody even wants to just have some conversation about it, you're more than welcome to call me or anybody in the municipal staff, clerk, Deputy Clerk Gagne, or the CAO related to it, and we'll find you whatever answers to whatever questions you may have related to it. Aside from that, last week ago, on the Wednesday, the emergency control group met related to our current situation related to COVID-19. The Omicron variant is of concern not only to us, but to the province and North America in general and the world. And it is based upon news articles I heard today, causing further restrictions to be imposed globally, but particularly in Ontario, where now long-term care homes have greater restrictions placed on them as of today for visitors and for residents to leave the home and employees. So the COVID-19 situation related to our emergency control group is certainly something that's still relevant, and we will meet again in January on that subject. Public Works. Public Works has not had a committee meeting, but there's at least 2 items tonight in our agenda to deal with. One very significant in the purchase of the new grader that was sent out by a request for quotation process was exercised, and perhaps Manager Carr, you'd like to elaborate a bit more on that, or not, or give us a department update of what's been occurring lately.
As of late, Provincial has been working diligently on Development Road. They brushed out on top of all of the culverts, so they have access to it. They cleaned out the culverts and now are putting the liners in. And they're very confident with the exceptional good weather that we're having that they'll be able to complete the job as indicated by December 31st. We started our brushing program this week. We just completed Talon Lake. Operationally, we would like to, within our operational budget next year, we would like to ditch Talon Lake Road and install culverts. So we have great difficulties there every time it rains. So we'd like to remedy that. You'll also notice further in the agenda a little discussion about the landfill, as this year Saturday is Christmas Day and the following Saturday is January 1st. So we'd like to accommodate our residents by opening on other days that are not the Saturday. Today, the rink has fully been prepared to wait for some freezing temperatures. And we're hoping that we may have ice for Christmas Day. We had a discussion with our emergency management team, and we feel that with the current protocols, we're able to move forward with that as long as the weather participates with us and as well as the protocols stay with us for now. and we can discuss the grader when we get to it in the agenda.
Okay. Thank you. All right, so the only motion coming forward at this point in the meeting then appears to be from Planning Advisory, and it relates to consent application B22 2021. I would take a mover and a seconder for it. Moved by Councillor Legaspi, seconded by Councillor Vinecore. Whereas the Planning Advisory Committee has recommended to Council to defer consent application B22 2021 Holly Duquette, pending comments from the MTO with respect to a shared access easement for the retained and severed portions. Be hereby resolved that Council approves of this recommendation. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Reports to non-municipal committees and boards. Phenom, I alluded earlier that their communique spoke to the passing of Mr. Hunt, but also there was some information in there related to their upcoming conference, and further in our agenda, you'll see a flyer related to it for their spring conference. North Bay Mattawa Conservation Authority.
Our meeting is tomorrow night, and it'll be at the last meeting of the year.
Okay, thank you. And Castleholm, for everybody's awareness, it's certainly a subject that's in the media a lot, and there's been a lot of discussion related to it. I was mistaken yesterday when I, in the general government meeting, stated to council that the decision on the City of North Bay proposal related to the city acquiring the asset from all the other member municipalities, operating it as a municipal home, and as a result, resolving the construction issue that's been hanging over everybody's head. That isn't a decision that's on our council agenda tonight, although the information was included in the package, and I was aware that that information was in there. But since we spoke yesterday, or I spoke to the matter yesterday, it's came to my attention that it isn't as simple as is described in the information package, wherein, generally speaking, the proposal is if the City of North Bay acquires the entity and continues to run it with a board, a municipal long-term care home board, and we no longer have a levy to pay, an annual operating levy, but instead part of the condition of all that is that we agree to our reconstruction costs, we would still have a mortgage described to me previously as being in and around similar to the operating levy. So no net change or very little net change in the operating cost for the 25-year mortgage. It's just that we wouldn't be an owner anymore, and we wouldn't have an operation levy to contribute over and above a mortgage. The point that was pointed out to me was that the proposal as submitted and with all parties being in good faith has a flaw in that the operating levy is mandated by the province of Ontario and the Long-Term Care Act. And as such, presently, the way the legislation, provincial legislation speaks, it's not for any party in that group of ownership to either relieve or compel pay a levy. It's a provincial requirement. So there's a lot of detail there, obviously, to be legally hashed out, and it isn't going to be as expeditious as some of the parties, particularly the City of North Bay, we're hoping, I think, that this could proceed. So it's nothing, I don't think, to concern ourselves with this evening, now that we know that, in that it's going to have some complexities to it. is there any questions related to it at all, or what I've said there? It was generally the hope that the municipalities would wholeheartedly adopt this proposal and they'd begin to move forward very quickly in the new year. And I don't believe that'll turn out to be the case based upon that information. There's no notice of motion. Introduction and consideration of bylaws, the first, second, and third reading of bylaw 2020-4, that being a bylaw to constitute and appoint a committee of adjustment. This is an annual requirement under the Municipal Act. The committee of adjustment is all members of council. Yes, recording clerk Gagne.
Your worship, could I just verify? It should be bylaw number 2021-38.
I
not
see that on the
2020 as
actual
stated
motion.
on the agenda.
Okay. I
Yes.
see that on the actual motion, yes. Okay, I would take a mover and a seconder for it then. Moved by Councillor Vancouver, seconded by Councillor Corbett. Whereas council deems it expedient to pass 3 readings of the following bylaw at this session, be it hereby resolved that a bylaw to constitute and appoint a committee of adjustment for the municipality be read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered 2021-38, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book, and that this bylaw be posted on the municipal website for public information purposes. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Disbursements. I would take a mover and a seconder to put the disbursements on the table, and then I would open the floor to any questions. A mover, Councillor Lagasse, seconded by Councillor Corbett. Okay, before I read the motion or any of the figures, I would open the floor to questions related to the disbursements, if any. Councillor Vaillancourt.
Thanks. Just wondering about page 1 of 6 with the levy for the education levy at the 107,000. Is that behind a quarter, or is that? I'm just wondering why it's so much.
That is our quarterly payment. We pay that 4 times a year, and the amounts there are the same amounts every
time?
quarter. Yes.
I didn't realize it was that high. One more, I got the page 1 of 6 also for the roadmap digital strategy. Is that for the vehicles? For the computer?
No, Council, that's the digital technology study that we've mentioned from time to time. And they're just wrapping up that study, and that was paid for by a grant.
All right, thanks, Peter.
Okay.
That's good, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions related to the disbursements? Yes, Councillor Lagasse. You appear to be muted at the moment.
I have a comment and a question. Page 2 of 6, I see the payment to David King for $12,091, Fwizzy versus McLaren. I'm glad that's over and that we won't see the disbursement that on the disbursements anymore. My next question is on page 5 of 6. Now, I remember the garbage containers that council had approved of 2, I believe it was 2 councils prior. And I would like to know if we could get a report on what's happening with the containers as it goes, maybe a monthly report on if they're being purchased and just what's going on there. I want to keep track of it, please. Thank you. That's it.
You're speaking of the food cycler initiative, is that?
The
I'm just
garbage,
looking for what line item you're referring to there.
it's under Parks and Recreation, garbage container. Is that the one that we approve for recycling? No, I guess not.
No, I'm not aware of what that would be.
If I can clarify, that's actually a Bearwise garbage can that we purchased for Red Glen Park.
Okay. All right, well, while I mentioned it, that's expensive. While I mentioned it, the garbage for recycling, and if did we purchase those containers?
No, we rent the containers for from Miller for the recycling, and they felt it was unsafe, the old container that we had before, so they've replaced it with that new one. Due to the not sure what's going to happen in the future with the recycling and the producer responsibility, we didn't purchase it. We're going to rent it until the government has decided as to what's going to happen with that and how that process will happen.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions related to the disbursements? Okay, hearing none. Motion moved by Councillor Lagasse, seconded by Councillor Corbett, that the following disbursements be approved as prepared. All departments under APO 5893, resulting in a subtotal of $480,320.35, and payroll batches 1180 through 1185, coming to a total of $88,891.59, resulting in a total disbursement of $569,211.94. All in favor? Carried. Correspondence and information. Mark Fleckney, a proposal to purchase a portion of the Shoreline Road allowance. And take a mover and a seconder for that. Moved by Councillor Corbett, seconded by Councillor Vinecore. Whereas Mark Fleck has submitted a proposal to purchase a portion of the Shore Road allowance in front of his property on part of Lot 2, Concession 7, Plan NR 1866, Part 1, Parcel 22209, Nipissing, as per their applications and sketches. And further, that Mark Fleckney be responsible for all disbursements incurred by the Township of Bonfield, and that the applicant submit a deposit of $3,000 to the Township prior to the file being forwarded to the municipal solicitor. Be it hereby resolved that Council approves of this recommendation in principle and advises the relieving Director of Planning and Development to proceed accordingly. Any questions on this one? All in favor? Carried. Item 2, the main building roof repairs. As Council may be aware, the awarded contract for the roof repairs was subject to scrutiny by an engineer to see if it would withstand the new weight of the new roof system that's going to be installed there. And as a result, it was discovered that there would need to be some reinforcement applied there, and that's what this motion speaks to. So in that regard, I would take a mover and a seconder for it. Moved by Councillor Foisey, seconded by Councillor Vinecore. Whereas the engineer's report recommends that the roof be reinforced to withstand the new roof load on the main office building. And whereas the cost will be an additional $24,787. Be it hereby resolved that Council approves of this extra cost. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Mutual assistance agreement. In your, yes, CAO Johnston, I was about to ask you to speak to the mutual assistance agreement.
I will.
Because
on
your
that.
fingerprints are all over it.
Yes. First of all, I apologize for my delay. That's the first time that's ever happened. I had some serious technical problems. with my laptop. Anyway, no, I just want to make a comment, Your Worship, on the last item, the roof, that as I just to remind council, that will all be paid for off the levy. We have money in our OSEF fund, more than enough to cover that. So it's needs to be done, and it's off the tax levy. On the mutual assistance agreement, this was something that was suggested to the regional CAOs by John Stuthers, Emergency Management Office in Toronto, some months ago. A number of municipalities in Ontario are doing this. It seems to me to be a very practical, proactive measure to take. There's no cost to us unless we require assistance. It's just in keeping with being prepared for future emergencies, not necessarily a declared emergency, but emergencies nonetheless, where our resources are strained and we need some help from our neighboring municipalities. So this agreement here, we just are suggesting that council have a look at it between now and a future council meeting. And if you wish to sign it, we'll have a bylaw prepared to do that. But as I said, it was discussed at a number of regional CAO meetings, and the agreement itself was provided to us by John Stuthers of the Emergency Management Office. And again, there's no cost to any of the participating municipalities unless we require assistance from some of them in terms of equipment or human resources or other such aid. And it's a very reasonable cost to do so.
Okay, thank you. I would take a mover and a seconder for this motion. Moved by Councillor Corbett, seconded by Councillor Vinecourt, that the mutual assistance agreement be approved as presented to council, and that a bylaw be prepared for all three readings to adopt the agreement. Be it hereby resolved that council approves of this recommendation. Any questions related to it at all? Yes, Councillor Corbett.
Well, my only question is, I see the 6 municipalities that seem to be part of this agreement. There are a few municipalities that I would think would be natural partners to this. Have they decided not to take part, or just they're doing their own mutual agreement between themselves?
Yes, CAO Johnson.
Well, Your Worship, the short answer to that, Councillor Corbett, is that those other municipalities haven't decided yay or nay. I think in part the matter has not been put to the council. We're in a position, we talked about this last Thursday, we're in a position to add other municipalities at such time as their council agrees to do that. So no, none of them have, none of the municipalities that are not on the agreement proposed have said no. They just haven't decided yet.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Lagasse.
All right, so my question is, I'm not sure what page it's on, but it's not sure about the entirety of the insurance language. So that I guess we'll be watching for. And also there's an X amount to their services at the rate of XX per hour plus mileage rate of 50 cents per kilometer rate per traveling allowance. So that would be number 11. So I just, and then number 17, there's another note here. Do we want a process? Just notes that why aren't you sure about the insurance language? Why?
Yes, please.
Mr. Mayor, Councillor Lagasse. No, again, that's just a matter of some of these municipalities have been trickling in to the agreement, and so at the next CAO meeting, we will determine. They will determine those issues. We've asked for some clarification from Russell Christie, our own lawyer, and several others about the insurance. And on the matter of fees, again, that's to be provided from other municipalities on a consensus. So we didn't put that figure in there yet because it hasn't yet been finalized.
Yes, Councillor Vinecourt.
Yeah, Peter, just on the question of fees. So if we have shared services and something happens in another township, we go there, whatever they charge. And then if something happens in ours, it's vice versa, right? That we gain also?
Yes, correct. That's exactly right.
Perfect, thanks.
It's a very proactive, positive measure. As I said, there won't be any fees charged to us unless we are in a situation where we need to avail ourselves of additional services.
All right, thanks.
And if we provide service to someone else, Counselor, they will pay us.
Okay, thank you. So I'll call the motion then. All in favor? Carried. Obviously, there's some details to be worked out yet, but that'll form the basis for the CAOs to continue working on the effort. Along the same lines as this, the subject came up of shared bylaw enforcement, and there's a policy draft in our package and a motion related to sharing bylaw enforcement. Would there be a mover and a seconder for it? Moved by Councillor Foisey, seconded by Councillor Lagasse. I'll read the motion first, and then if there's any questions, we can have them. That the shared service agreement for the enforcement of municipal bylaws be approved as presented to Council, and that a bylaw be prepared for all 3 readings to adopt the agreement. Be it hereby resolved that Council approves of this recommendation. Any questions? CEO Johnston.
Not a question so much, Your Worship, just a comment. This is something very close to my heart, shared services. I truly believe that going forward, a lot of small rural northern municipalities like Bonfield are going to be able to do things in the future with limited resources by availing themselves of shared services. A number of CAOs, we started talking about this 5 years ago. And we've shared our building officials with several municipalities. The mutual assistance is another example. This one here again seemed to me to be a very proactive, positive measure. I discussed it with our bylaw officer, Mr. O'Reilly, and he thought it was a great idea. And Manager Carr and I were talking about this today, and just a note to Council that this will require us to get approval from CUPE, because we're changing the job description, or it might be perceived as changing the job description for a union position. But as I said to Manager Carr, when we talked about this at our regional CAO meetings, we're not reducing any of the bylaw officers' workloads. We're not changing their pay. This is only in the event, again, like mutual assistance, this is only in the event where bylaw enforcement requirements and activities stretch the ability of our bylaw officer to undertake those duties. So we would bring this individual in to help out, to enforce bylaws. This is probably not going to be anything during winter months, but in the spring and summer of next year, we're likely to have a number of bylaw issues, such as RVs, sea containers, and clean yards. So again, there's no cost to us unless we require to bring in additional bylaw help. And as I said, it seems to be very proactive, because this allows us to maintain a full complement or a full level of bylaw enforcement without increasing staff.
Okay, thank you. Any questions related to it at all? All right, this is another one that it's a work in progress as far as drafting up the actual agreement itself by bylaw. All in favor? Carried. Our next item, corporate memo regarding the Conservation Authority and the late Mr. Peters, who through taxation issues was not billed for a piece of property that he owned. And as a result, the Conservation Authority in turn was billed for the full amount of the property taxes, and the other party was not billed at all. And the memo speaks quite clearly to that. It's a bit of a long-standing issue in that it's gone on over a number of years, And as a result, we hold some potential responsibility for it sitting in that position. So the proposal, as it's described in our package, spells out the solution to it. If that's so acceptable, I would take a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Corbett, seconded by Councillor Lagasse. That the North Bay Mattawa Conservation Authority be reimbursed the overpayment of taxes from 2016 to 2021, and that a tax adjustment be prepared for roll 4826 to 17300 as per the Deputy Clerk's recommendations. Any questions on this one? All in favor? Carried. Next item, Seniors Housing Project Capital Agreement. In our package, there is some documentation related to it. And it speaks to some of the questions in the lead up that I had asked, and Councillor Vinecourt also had some questions answered related to that subject matter. Unfortunately, as was expected, the nuts and bolts of the loan agreement, I don't know how many members of council have seen it, but it came today to us in your agenda notes package, and it's from the case that is the financier of the proposal. But I haven't had time to review any of the details of the loan agreement itself. And as you know, on this subject, the loan agreement is the outstanding matter if we're going to guarantee the loan. So the prepared motion that's in the package speaks to a bylaw being prepared for 3 readings at a future date, but that the motion reads that we would accept a capital facilities agreement tonight. We had left, not at the last meeting, but prior to that, the expectation and direction to our staff to work towards drafting such an agreement. So I'm going to throw this out there as a suggestion, due to the fact that the actual, I forget what they call them, but it's a terms and conditions sheet from the financer. Due to the fact that it was received late after the agenda was built, and you may or may not have had time to review it, I would expect that at the next meeting, when the bylaw is prepared, would be sufficient to do both the motion and the bylaw so that no time is lost. But in the meantime, we can all satisfy ourselves that the financing agreement is appropriate. So if that works for people to just defer it tonight and do it all in a one-shot deal at the next occasion, that's what I would suggest to you. Is that acceptable to council? Yes, CEO Johnston.
Oh, Your Worship, is I apologize for the lateness in that document, because as you mentioned, the limited mortgage guarantee is sort of the last remaining key issue. It's a very key issue, and Mr. Butler and Mr. Harriman made every effort to get that material to us in time. I had asked to have it provided to you folks last week, so that you could respond with any questions and concerns you had by Wednesday. And everyone did that on the material that they did have, and I thank them very much for that. But my suggestion is that if council agrees to defer it to the next meeting of council to give you an opportunity to review the material before we present the bylaw, similar to what we did with the previous material, if council would provide comments to the Deputy Clerk Treasurer, questions or comments, concerns about that last document, we'll provide that to Mr. Harriman and Mr. Butler as we did before, and they can respond, so that when the item does come back up at a meeting in January, you members of council and yourself, Your Worship, have had an opportunity to voice any questions or concerns about the the letter, but the agreement itself. And the board and Mr. Harriman and Mr. Butler can respond to that. So when it does come back to council in January, most of the issues have at least been addressed. So I think that that's a positive step forward.
Further to that, and in thinking about it today, while I was being employed as a farmer, I've certainly needed to borrow enough money in my career. I'm a expert on the terms and conditions of borrowing details. I'm always just happy to be a recipient of funds. So on that vein, I would perhaps throw the suggestion out there that either our auditor or somebody that's very fluent in the language of lending act as an assistant to us to review the term and condition sheet of the loan that we would be, effectively co-signing, and give us a recommendation as a third party kind of thing if it all is in order. Is that something council would appreciate? Because it's something I think would be prudent and would then allow us to make a decision with best advice. Okay, I'm seeing some general concurrence to that. Yes, CAO.
Well, Your Worship, just on that point, we will be providing, we just got it yesterday, we will be providing a copy of that letter to our solicitor for comment. But just so I'm clear, so I can direct before I make my exit. Who else would you like to have a look at that document before the next?
Well, I haven't named anybody other than the municipal auditor, and I don't know if that's maybe the right person to pick apart the details and the line items of the loan agreement. But
We could do
it was
both.
the only person I could think of offhand today that would be. I know the proponents have the consultants that are advocating this as a fair agreement, but they are the recipient of the agreement. So I'm just suggesting to maintain that due diligence integrity, that we find some party to review it on municipal behalf and say, yes, this is a fair agreement for you.
We could do both, Your Worship, Mr. Velboom and Mr. DeCare.
Okay. Yes, I'm certain Mr. Velboom will fine tooth comb it as well. So, okay, so that can all happen if we so direct tonight, unofficially direct that scrutiny be applied to it as quickly as possible, so that when we get into the new year, that work will be done. Hopefully. Is that I'm seeing from council generally that's acceptable, so we'll so direct the CAO to further that out. Okay, so for tonight then, that motion is deferred, but just for those reasons as described. Landfill site Christmas hours. The manager of Public Works had spoke to the issue earlier, and Christmas and New Year's both fall on the Saturday. So there is a motion to that effect. And the motion describes that we will open the Monday after Christmas, Monday the 27th, and that after New Year's we'll open looks like Sunday, January 2nd. So I take a mover and a seconder for that. Moved by Councillor Lagasse, seconded by Councillor Vinar. Whereas the Public Works Manager recommends to Council that the landfill site be opened Monday, December 27th, 2021, and January 22nd, 2022 at regular landfill hours. Be it hereby resolved that Council approves of this recommendation. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. The next one is the Public Works Manager's report on the request for quote for the new grader. I'm going to ask the Public Works Manager to speak to the issue for a moment prior to us entertaining the motion. Can you just give us an overview of the process and the outcome?
It was a lengthy process. I've never bought a grader in my life. But looking at other requests for quotations that were out there, conversations with our mechanic, Busted Knuckles. He works for several municipalities. Well, to be honest, on the 17 highway corridor from Sudbury to Mattawa, and at great length, we discussed what the township's needs would be with to have a grader. In that preparation, we decided not to get a front plow and not to add any attachments to the rear of the grader. We already have those attachments, and we're going to reuse those attachments. So within the request for quotation, we just asked for them to be hydraulically plumbed. In lieu of not doing that, and we still maintain the quoted budget that I had given council for capital works. I think Councillor Lagasse will be pleased to hear that with the RFQ, we purchased a snow gate that goes on the end of the mow board in lieu of the plow blade and the scarifier. So when we do ice blading within the township, that little gate goes down beside the mow board and it closes off snow being deposited into anyone's driveway. A level of service that we offer within our municipality currently is when we do that ice blading procedure, we send out a backhoe. It's quite a big rigmarole with all the equipment that's out there and the operators to ensure that snow is removed. So now this would be a one person, one piece of equipment job with that snow gate. You'll see that within the request for quotation. And on a side note, I think either in a procurement bylaw or within some sort of policy that in future that we have these life cycle costs put into our tendering and our request for quotations, as it gives us a greater picture as to what our operational budget would be to own the equipment. And as you can see, the two quotes, one company was able to list that and one company was not. So the request for quotations came in at Turomont Cat at 429, 450,000, including HST. As most of you know, the municipality gets an HST rebate. So the final cost would be 377,188.89 for Turomont Cat. Turomont Cat also offered filter packaging for 7 years or up to 4,500 hours. And that was a value of $9,600. Brandt Tractor, who is the owner of John Deere exclusively, their bid was $464,430,000 or $30, including HST, and the price after our HST rebate would be $418,568.49. Local availability of parts, John Deere didn't respond in their RFQ documents. CAT had responded that 90% of their parts are next day service. Their technician so happens to live on Maple Road. So I think that would be beneficial to the township. The resident technician on the road for John Deere is a resident of Sudbury. And the delivery date for a CAT is June 30th, 2022. And the delivery date for John Deere would be May 31st, 2022. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, you're on, yeah.
I apologize. Run that delivery date by me again.
June
May
30th,
31st.
2022 for CAT and May 31st, 2022 for John Deere.
So in either case, they're 6 or 7 months away.
Yes.
So we have lots of time to arrange financing then.
Yes.
Or appears so.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that overview on it.
You're welcome.
The decision to purchase a grader has already been made by council. It's just, this is the outcome of the request for quote process. I don't know if now that you've seen the results, if that changes your mind in any respect, or if not, we need to proceed. So I would take a mover and a seconder for the purchase if you still feel it's in order. Councillor Foisey moves, seconded by Councillor Vinecore. Whereas the Public Works Manager was directed by council to execute a request for quotation for the purchase of a new motor grader. And whereas 2 bids were received and reviewed for errors and omissions. Therefore, it is recommended that the request for quotation be awarded to Toromont Cat for the sum of $377,188.89 after HST rebate, and that the warranty be purchased for 6 years or 7,500 hours for a total of $38,597.88 after HST rebate. And furthermore, that financing be arranged. Any questions on this one? Yes, Councillor Corbett.
Just on the life cycle costs as outlined by Kat, is that an estimated cost or a guaranteed cost per hour?
Nothing is guaranteed these days, especially with COVID and supply chain issues. However, it's a good overview, I believe. And like I said, I think that it's a great way to proceed with our RFQs and tenders in future. For instance, like say we get funding for a splash pad, it'd be excellent to know like what are those maintenance costs so that it's easier for department heads to budget for them in our operations. And it also gives you that long range forecast of how much something actually costs.
Okay.
Just as a follow-up, if we could.
Yes.
So obviously, if we're purchasing the extended warranty through this, when we look at the repair costs at $8.14 on average per running hour, that will be mitigated from the increased cost of the warranty, right?
Yes, it would.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, Councillor Vinecore.
Just more of a comment. I'm just glad that we can get this done after spending so much money on the renting one for the last 2 years. So I think it's a good investment. Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor? Carried. Information. Ombudsman's report. At our last, oh no, that was a Integrity Commission report. The Ombudsman's report speaks to a phone conversation that both the CAO and myself were involved with related to a complaint that was made to the Ombudsman some time ago related to how the consent was withdrawn to have a deputy mayor position in the township. And while it wasn't their role as the ombudsman to scrutinize whether or not the municipality should have a deputy mayor position, their concern rested primarily with the fact that the public at large was not perhaps as well advised of the process of how that came to be. And I explained to both the investigator and this was the summary that you're having here. The investigation happened over a year ago, and the summary is basically what's in your agenda package tonight. Under the section of the Municipal Act that governs our municipality, the heads of council have the authority to consent to having a deputy mayor. There is no such thing in a single tier municipality as a deputy mayor position, but it's been a long-standing tradition in our municipality that the procedural bylaw speaks to appointing a alternate head of council that we choose to call a deputy mayor in our procedural bylaw. Section, I believe it's 283 of the Municipal Act, speaks very clearly to a head of council needing to consent to that being enacted. What the Municipal Act does not speak very clearly to is how that consent can be withdrawn. So what the suggestion here from the ombudsman is that council should perhaps review their procedural bylaw, insert language into it, first of all, whether and how a deputy mayor is appointed, and it should speak to the head of council granting consent. And it could also then speak to how, or perhaps why, a head of council would withdraw consent for that position. But more to their concern in their summary that they presented to us in a teleconference call, to close out the issue of their investigation, they very much encouraged me to communicate to the public at large how that process happened and why it happened, and in the future that we would be encouraged to explain our processes better. So I've committed to them that in the new year, I will, to close out the subject, circulate a citizen flyer type thing that we do, information bulletin, speaking to the matter to close it out and explain how that situation came to pass and the reasons why and the legislation behind it. So I don't know, CAO Johnston, if you had anything to add on that.
Just this, your worship, I was in touch with the ombudsman's office today. And as with all reports that go to municipal councils, she just wanted to confirm with me that once the matter has been discussed, as you just did at council, that the ombudsman letter and their recommendations, or their suggestions rather, is posted on our website. And I assured her that we would do that.
Okay. So, and as an addendum, like we'll post it to the website immediately to be in compliance with them, I guess, but the follow-up encouragement direction that I was given by them, I'll draft a memo, and it'll serve as the response to it, and it can also be posted to the website once it's created. Okay, firefighter application from Ryan Press. I'm just looking here. I don't have a motion in my package for that, I don't believe. Nonetheless, I can create one.
We no longer, Mr. Mayor,
Sorry?
we no
Oh,
longer
yes, we no
require a
longer
motion
adopt
to
them by
accept it.
motion.
Right.
Okay. So this is just an information point then for council that there's a new firefighter
Yes.
joining us by the name of Ryan Press. We welcome him to our team. Next item, Courageous K9, consideration of support. This is probably one that doesn't have a motion in it either, because it's general information soliciting funds for that cause. This is something we could refer into the new year if council chooses to support it financially. Is that something council wishes done? I see Councillor Foisey in support. Okay, Councillor Corbett as well. So in the new year, we'll entertain a motion of support for that. Near North Crime Stoppers, along the same lines. What's the general opinion on it? A motion of support in the new year? Okay. Also, it's Crime Stoppers Month in January, and on our website, we should make some acknowledgement of that at that point in time. As I spoke to at the outset of the meeting, correspondence received related to the 2022 Phenom Conference. It's scheduled for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, the 9th through 11th of May. And we're all hopeful that it's an actual in-person conference at the Best Western in North Bay, hosted by the City of North Bay. And we're all hopeful that COVID will be such a small thing in the rearview mirror that this actual real person conference will be allowed to happen, and we can gather with our colleagues from across Northern Ontario. Item 6, a motion of support Calvin Township related to weighted assessment. I would take that as information only because it speaks to the DSAB and Castleholm and other such things. weighted assessment is the formula that all of these entities use. And in this particular case, with the motion that is there from Calvin Township, it would be quite beneficial to them to move away from weighted assessment, but I think it would be quite punitive to us. So on that basis, I would recommend we not support it, but that's just my overview on it. Mayor's memo regarding the recruitment of the CAO, that was a matter that happened on Friday morning, wherein interviews were done with the assistance of BDO HR and our advertising through AMCTO and other avenues, the North Bay Nugget and other. We had applications received for the CAO position, and 4 candidates were word escapes me, refined down out of the list of applications, shortlisted is the term I was looking for, sorry. And as a result, only 3 were able to partake in an interview. And as I mentioned in that mayor's memo, one of the candidates clearly is our preferred choice. I gave direction to the current CAO today to reach out to that individual and express to him that we would be very much willing to entertain further conversation as far as engaging him as an employee. And that is something that the BDO HR person, our consulting assistant, Brian Rogers, and CAO Johnston concurred should be facilitated by me, in that all of the other parties are basically have their work done if we can work out an employment contract with this individual. And on that basis, while this is something I don't normally apprise myself of doing, it's an informal process. The CAO that we're going to negotiate with certainly can scope out the terms of reference of his employment contract. There will be assistance provided to me to ensure that it covers all of our requirements. And I've been directed to initiate the dialogue as far as him joining our team. So I just wanted council to be aware of that. And in the course of the next week or 2, I will update you as to expected salary request from the candidate, and also whether we can come to terms on an employment agreement. Is there anything, CAO Johnston, that you'd like to add that I've failed to mention in that respect?
Follow up on what you just said, Your Worship. I do concur with what you said. I think the 4 of us, the BDO HR person, Brian Rogers, you and I, all agreed without any ambivalence that this individual was clearly the choice. I spoke to him today, and for what council for council's information, this individual is currently not working. He's in the area, and so if you can, if a consensus can be reached with him on the terms of employment that you bring to council, that individual could be available to start work sometime mid to late January, which pleases me to no end. I wanted to be able to leave knowing that there was somebody capable and competent to assist my colleagues and you, Your Worship, and council. And I'm satisfied that should you be able to come to agreement on terms of employment, that will be the case. So I'm pleased to say that.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Councillor Corbett.
Just a couple of points and perhaps a question, but wondering if we aren't successful in securing this one candidate, is it my assumption that the others, given the conversation, will not suffice, and we would be going back out with another round of advertisement for a CAO. My concern with the comments coming forward tonight in the council meetings, that I think we've actually jeopardized our negotiating position with this new candidate by putting our cards on the table very publicly, that we have a preferred candidate and that the others, that he is by far a preferred candidate. I just am concerned that we have tipped our hat in any potential negotiations when we are going to be discussing salary and employment contract. So I just have a bit of concern of the process that unfolded.
Yes, CEO Johnson.
Well, I understand Councilor Corbett's comments, and for whatever degree I'm responsible for, to use your term, Councilor, tipping our hand. I do want to say, though, that I had a very candid conversation with this individual, and in no way did I suggest that anything was fait accompli. I simply said that he was selected to be the one that we would negotiate to see if we could agree on terms of employment. That's all that was said, and I made that very clear to this individual.
Yeah, thanks. My point is only that, you know, we've had now very public conversation on to all of our viewers on YouTube, and if that gentleman's watching, then obviously, you know, he knows just how strongly we want him. So it just puts us behind the 8 ball in a negotiating position. That's my point. So
On the other side of your point of view, there, the other 2 candidates are qualified candidates, or we wouldn't have interviewed them. But at this point in time, both of them are gainfully employed in the sector. So in this particular case, the preferred candidate, who is Northern Ontario local, I'll call it, meets our requirements, and we're not disrupting anybody else's employment relationship they currently hold. But that's not to say that, you know, we only have one choice available to us. So I hope that satisfies your concern.
fair enough. Thank you.
Okay. So that's all I have to report at this point, but I certainly will keep council apprised of new developments related to it. Planning Advisory Board members, letter to Mayor and Council. And in your package, there is a letter dated December 9th, 2021, with respect to the membership signed by the membership of the 3 members, public appointed members of the Planning Advisory Committee. I don't know what to suggest on that, other than there was quite a contentious issue that led, I believe, to this letter, in that, as we all know, and I spoke to it at the outset of the meeting, even the minutes that, or not the minutes, but the motion that council crafted, I bungled that in that it speaks to it being a planning advisory recommendation. It was a compromise recommendation of council that was the eventual outcome that reflects in the minutes. So on the whole subject matter, it got quite emotional and is concerning in that regard. My advice to council at this point in time is to take that letter as information and let the Christmas period of peace and hope and joy hopefully do its magic. We'll revisit it in the new year and hope that parties have, you know, reflected on it, and perhaps will reconsider some of their points of view at this point in time. But I don't know what else to suggest to council at this point. Yes, Councillor Corbett.
I agree with you, Your Worship. The only additional information for consideration is I don't actually know the procedural process one way or the other on this, where it sits, where does it rest with council from a decision standpoint, and is it even within our scope of authority to have that conversation or make any sort of decision on it?
Well, getting into the details of the letter, the letter is signed by 3 individuals who are public appointed members of the Planning Advisory Committee, and they're basically suggesting to us that they find the committee unworkable with the present chair that it has. And as you know, they've basically given us an ultimatum that needs to be amended, or they feel they can no longer be workable on that committee. So I don't know what to say related to it. There's it's a point of view, and then until council, there is no roadmap to resolving the issue as you're asking about, Councillor Corbett. So yes, Councillor Lagasse.
I am willing to talk about it tonight. But if, as you suggest, you would like to wait till the festive year starts, I'm more than willing to hold what I'm going to say till then. But I'm willing to discuss it tonight.
Well, these appointments of council members to committees are made at the commencement of the committee term of council, and there's nowhere in the Municipal Act that I can, as the mayor, may wave a magic wand and remove or suggest to remove a committee chair. I can have that side discussion off the record with a member if I feel that either they're not enjoying their role or some other reason, and try to facilitate better participation by the member to engage them more if for example they're not just not cut out for what they're doing. But in this particular case, that's not something that I want to approach at this point in time. I'm hopeful that all parties can have conversation or work towards a productive working relationship in the new year. And if that can't be achieved, well, then we will have to look at how we go forward. But I'm hopeful that all parties can they have worked well together in the past, and I'm hopeful that could be reestablished. So that's where I'd like to leave it for this evening, if council agrees. Okay. So while I don't like referring matters such as this because they're kind of delicate in that they're contentious, I will ask that this be referred into the new year for the council agenda then. Yes, Councillor Corbett.
Sorry, Your Worship. And if it's going to come back and we are going to have public conversations about it, I would actually like to know to what end from a council responsibility and what would be asked of us from a council level and from a decision making. Because quite frankly, if at the end of the day we don't have authority here, well, then there's no real point in airing these conversations very publicly if at the end of the day council has no authority here anyway. So
okay, well, I guess to answer that succinctly, council does have authority in that the letter ends by suggesting that if things can't be worked out, changes in the best interest of the township is how they placed it. If it's not possible to make changes in the best interest of the township, then please accept this as our letter of resignation. So I'm hopeful that changes can be made in the best interest of the township between now and our next meeting, and in that regard, their resignation won't be necessary. But failing that, it would seem that we've lost 3 members of our planning advisory committee. So I guess that's as simple as it could become. Yes, CAO Johnson.
Well, just to Councillor Corbett's point, I just want to be what you support what you just said, Your Worship. Councillor Corbett, the membership on this committee, on any other committee, is entirely within the authority of council. That planning advisory committee or any other committee of municipality, other than even the library board, they're not autonomous. Council has full authority in this regard here.
thank you. Peter, you should have made your answer longer. Fill the
That
space.
would have been welcome. The mayor disappeared into a snowstorm there for a minute.
You need to give me a sign, your worship, and I can check it out. I didn't
The
realize.
new guy's gonna have to be given a code, that's all. When I do this, talk long.
Gotcha.
Yeah, okay. The next one is a letter to council from the East Nipissing North Perry Sound Veterinary Services Committee. And as your member rep on there, it would be my pleasure if you would allow me to write you a response report related to this letter. If you're adamant that it be dealt with tonight, that's fine. I've made a few points of note, but they're kind of a scrambled egg of response. So what I would do is in response, circulate back a memo to council related to it. And then in the new year, we can make a choice of what we choose to do related to the Veterinary Services Committee, if that's acceptable as a referred item. Yes, Councillor Vinecourt.
Yeah, I'd like to see it come back up for sure. Either it's tonight or in January,
Okay,
because I had a few complaints.
okay. Is that generally acceptable to council? All right. Moving to new business. We don't have any, but our unfinished business, our longstanding conversation related to the lease agreement and the fee that we pay monthly to the parish for the standby services of the parish hall. And in our package, there is a pre-prepared motion of speaking to the amendments of the lease agreement, that it be prepared for the next meeting. The direction, I guess, that we need to give this evening is what financial figure our standby lease pay right now is $500 per month, related to having that ability to access the building at our need. And then there was circulation given to us related to added costs that the parish has found along the way. And now, I guess to summarize it, they're seeking a rent increase. So is there a figure that councillors would like to suggest for when the bylaw is prepared that would be inserted in there? As I've maintained all along, yes, perhaps CAO Johnson, you were the delegated party to have this conversation. Maybe you could brief us on it a little bit.
Well, yeah, before Councillor Corbett has a comment, I just want to outline very briefly the background to this. At the last council meeting that it was discussed, I offered to amend, Councillor Foisey attempted to assist the situation with the increased costs that Parish Hall said that they are incurring. But my suggestion was that rather than by a resolution, that what we needed to do was amend the actual agreement, because the two resolutions that were passed, one in 2014 and one in 2015, outlining snow plowing, they died with council. So the 2015 resolution died with council. And every council would have to do that every term, is pass another resolution. So my suggestion was, let's make a clean break here. We'll amend the actual lease agreement, which is what the content of that that draft that you have. We had this discussion as well. I have removed the term rent, because it's not rent. It's not rent at all. It's a retainer fee, like you would do with a lawyer. To have the facility, in this case, on standby when we need it for an emergency. So the agreement would be amended to refer to a retainer fee, and the suggestion from council at the time was that, and Councillor Foisey, that council could agree on a figure as the retainer fee that might incorporate, that might accommodate those incurred costs that were spoken to by the Parish Hall management. So it's very simple. Really, the only issue, as you pointed out, Your Worship, is what that retainer fee would be. And if there's an agreement on that tonight or whatever, but if there's an agreement on that, we'll simply bring a bylaw to a future council to amend the agreement with a retainer fee in there, which would satisfy, I believe, both parties.
Okay. Just for council's awareness, the municipal taxes portion is rebated in its entirety as part of that standby fee. And historically and up to date, we have been paying $500 a month as a standby fee for that. And I suggested to council that while we were provided with information related to increased costs that the parish is incurring there, or at the time they were just quotations. I don't know as fact that they have engaged a contractor or what they've done, but the figure that was suggested was the full amount that the municipality should pick up, and my point of view on that was that as parties to this partnership, 100% I didn't feel was appropriate of the new costs. So I know it's 500 right now, and that's the basis we start from. But in partnership and in fairness, we should make gesture towards an increase. But I would entertain thoughts of what that should be. Yes, Councillor Corbett.
Your Worship, can you, I don't have the figure in front of me. What was the quotes they had received? What was the full amount of the quote that they had received?
Yes, CEO Johnston.
The quote for snow plowing services, Councillor Corbett?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it was 8,000.
I seem to want to say $650 a month. They were requesting 8,000 divided by 12. Yes, 650 or somewhere in there amount was 100% of the new cost.
Yeah.
So, which is
so
130% of 130% increase on the former standby pay. So that to me is not acceptable, but
no, absolutely. And I've had conversations with representatives of the parish, and I believe we could probably make everybody from that side happy if we landed at the total of $900 a month. So the 500 plus 400 of a total of $900 a month, if that was agreeable by council.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So there we have a suggestion. Any other thoughts on it at all? Yes, Councillor Vancouver.
Yeah, 1,900, I think is fair. I'd settle for 900.
I could go as far as 850, but I hear two 900s on the table. So.
That's my thought anyways, thanks.
Okay. Okay, well, that's significant less than what was tabled to us before, being $1,150 or so anyway. But what I'm hearing is there's two 900s on the table, and I've already gestured that 850. Would 875 as a compromise be somewhere we can land with this and move forward? Yes, CEO Corbett, or Councillor Corbett.
Yeah. Listen, I'm sure they would accept the 875. However, I am comfortable at the 900 given our commitments, past commitments to doing the plowing. So I'd like to see it at the $900 mark. If that makes the other side happy, and they do a lot of work for our community as it is, so wanting to make sure that everyone is feeling comfortable and confident in the future of our community, and that the parish will continue to be great community partners, I don't want to compromise that over $25 if they've notionally said that they'd be happy at $900. I'm happy to stick at the $900 level.
Okay. At any point in time, CEO Johnston, was $900 suggested to the municipality officially, or as being acceptable?
I can say this quietly, understanding that no one is listening. That figure was mentioned, and there didn't seem to be any pushback.
I see. Okay. All right. Well, for the purposes of tonight, then, it would seem that 900 is the figure that we've come to, a $400 80% increase over our previous standby pay amount. And I guess all we need to do, there's a motion here that directs a bylaw amendment to be drafted in that regard. And now that we know the figure, staff can insert that figure. Yes, Deputy Clerk.
And that date would be effective January 1st. I know the bylaw won't go to council till the first meeting of January.
The package that we had, or the information in our package, did speak to it starting as of the 1st of January. In all likelihood, our first payment might need to be a retroactive double payment or something if it doesn't occur till February. But I think in good faith, the start of the year was what council had under consideration. But the motion doesn't speak to a specific start date on it. But I would take a mover and a seconder related to the motion in the package. Moved by Councillor Corbett, seconded by Councillor Viancore. And the motion says Herbie, but I'll read it properly. It says that council hereby adopts the proposed amendments to the lease agreement with the St. Bernadette Parish Hall and directs that a bylaw be prepared for the next council meeting to adopt the revised lease agreement. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Next one is a memo from the CAO regarding an internal issue. Is there a mover and a seconder for this motion? Moved by Councillor Corbett, seconded by Councillor Viancore. Council hereby approves of the offer by the CAO to completely close the file related to his dispute with the Township Council arising from a resolution passed at a council meeting on June 9th, 2020. In return for the CAO completely waiving his rights to any future action, Council agrees to reimburse him for legal fees incurred in that matter, which he paid for out of his own personal funds. The CAO further acknowledges that such reimbursement by Council is done without prejudice and is in no way an admission of any liability on its part. A document confirming this has been signed by the CAO and deposited with the Township Solicitor. All in favor?
May I have a recorded vote on that, please?
Okay. Deputy Clerk, we're seeking a recorded vote. I'll ask you to call the process, please.
Councillor Corbett, how do you vote?
Yay.
Councillor Foisey, how do you vote?
No.
Councillor Lagasse, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Vaillancourt, how do you vote? You are muted.
Yes.
Mayor McLaren, how do you vote?
Yes. Yay.
Motion is carried.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, all council. Appreciate that. Thank you.
There's no need for an in-camera session and there is no addendum. So we're now at the point of confirmatory bylaw. I would take a mover and a seconder for that. Moved by Councillor Vinecore, seconded by Councillor Corbett. Whereas council deems it expedient to pass 3 readings of the following bylaw at this session. Be it hereby resolved that a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council from November 9th, 2021 to December 14th, 2021 be read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered 2021-36, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. All in favor? Carried. It looks like we've run out of agenda for this evening. And in a moment, I'll take a mover and a seconder for adjournment. But I want to wish all of council and our staff and all of our viewers and citizens a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And this meeting this evening concludes our participation by our CAO, Mr. Johnston. And while he, I'm certain, will cross paths with us in the future in positive ways, I sincerely want to thank him for his service to our municipality. He came in at a point in time 7 years ago that there was a great deal of backlog of matters to be resolved, and he's did an exceptional job for us in getting our municipality's affairs on the straight and narrow, along with all of our HR matters. And as you know, and was described earlier this evening, he was a catalyst across the district related to other municipalities and shared services, and mentored and fostered a lot of other municipality CAOs that have come on board during his time here with us. And I just want to personally thank him for his assistance to me all along the way, and to our municipality for his service thus far. And if there's any comments that member of council would like to make, you're more than welcome to do so. Yes, Councillor Lassie.
I just like to say, wish everyone a Merry Christmas, not only council, but all the residents of Bondfield and Township, and also CAO Peter Johnston. Thank you for being with us for the last 7 years. You've been a great help, and I wish you all the best in your future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Councillor Vinecore.
Just want to wish everybody a Happy New Year too, and Merry Christmas, and hopefully next year will be better with this COVID stuff. And I'd like to thank Peter too, and great job for coming to the town and working with us. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you. And sorry.
Councillor Corbett.
Well, I'll just add my thanks to Peter and wish him well in his next adventure and whatever leads. I hope our paths do cross, as the mayor alluded to. And I've appreciated your mentorship and bringing me up to speed from a council perspective. It was greatly appreciated as I dove into some issues in the municipality, and your guidance was greatly appreciated. So wishing you all the best, and thank you so much.
Well, thank you for that. And I'll be very brief. As I said yesterday, anything that collectively we've all achieved the last 7.5 years was a group effort. And I mean, I have some wonderful colleagues still here, and some wonderful colleagues who have left. It was a team effort, but we could not have done what we did do without the support and guidance from the mayor and from council. And if this is my last municipal post, which it is, I'm not retiring, but this is my last full-time municipal post, and I could not have chosen. I could not have been blessed with anything better than this one. I have thoroughly enjoyed my time in Bondfield, the residents, and working with council, the various members of council, all of the members of council, we've had some differences of opinion from time to time, but that's just the way the game is played. That's politics, and if you don't have differing opinions from time to time, then things don't get refined and sharpened and made more positive. So I want to thank each and every one of the members of council for making my stay here in Bonneville as enjoyable as it was. And you certainly will, you see me from time to time, Councillor Corbett. I've mentioned to the mayor and to my colleagues that at the end of the year, when I'm back from my holiday, I plan to continue to work at my desk here, where I have been for the last 2 years. And from time to time, I'm going to, without pay, be available to help the mayor and my colleagues in the transition that's going to happen in January. And I encourage any member of council, if there's anything I can do as the former CAO to assist in the transition to a new CAO and the new team you've got, I'm more than happy to do that without pay. It's been a pleasure and an honor for me to have been your CAO. So thank you all very much. And Merry Christmas to everyone, to your family, and stay safe. Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Okay, on that note, I'll take a mover and a seconder to adjourn our meeting. Moved by Councillor Foisey, seconded by Councillor Corbett. And CEO Johnston, I still will occasionally check in with you to see what soup you're having on a Thursday, just to keep that line of communication open.
I want to hold you to that, Your Worship. I look forward to those inquiries on Thursdays, and I'm going to hold you to that.
Okay, very good. And as I stated earlier, I much appreciate your assistance to me.
Thank you.
That this meeting be adjourned at 8:42 p.m. All in favor? Carried. Thank you and good night, everybody.
Merry Christmas and Merry Christmas on the day, all the staff and Public Works and everybody that I forgot.
Thank
Bye.
you. Merry Christmas. Good night. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye.
Merry
We're having ham
Christmas.
dinner on Friday.
Okay.
Yeah, in the garage. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Good night. Merry Christmas.